Hi, welcome to the next part in our IC tutorial series looking at coaching cycles. And this time we'll be looking at the post observation reflection conversation. Now, this is following the class visit where you took some observation notes, and now you need to move from observation to feedback. And this might be a process you're very excited for based on the lesson you saw, or you're going to have to be very strategic in your conversations to keep that working relationship going with the teacher. Now, some guiding questions for giving feedback. How might I, the coach, help the teacher accurately perceive and evaluate their teacher moves and their effects? How are you going to leverage the data to have that conversation? What evidence do you have that the teacher is ready for feedback? What specific feedback might be the most purposeful to move the teacher forward in this coaching process? To which data do you want to draw the most attention to? How can you give feedback that simultaneously preserves the working relationship with the teacher, maintains that openness and trusting relationship you are developing, while still moving the practice forward? Now, in order to get ready for this meeting, you're going to put some time in because this meeting is an opportunity to be strategic with your conversation with the teacher and be responsive to the needs of where they are in the teaching process, their teaching career, and the coaching relationship. And basically, remember, your goal is teacher growth, but it is a process. So when you are planning for this meeting, go back and analyze the data from the observation notes you took. Look for entry points for conversations to have with the teacher. Identify what your objective is with this conversation. Based on your analysis of the data, where do you want the conversation to go? And in order to frame that, prepare specific questions that's going to provide the most opportunities for the teacher to reflect and have meaningful feedback conversations. Now, there is a protocol for this, and I highly recommend following it. The first part of the protocol of this conversation is to frame the conversation. Have the teacher review what their goal of the lesson was and what your observation focus was. Just kind of help them reframe what was happening for your class visit. And then have the teacher summarize their impressions. Don't try to refrain from asking, hey, how did it go? Instead, ask the teacher to summarize whether this lesson went as expected. And then follow up, well, what do you think the data will show? Then go through the process of analyzing the data that you took in your notes from that class visit. Afterwards, have the teacher identify their conclusions and next steps. Basically, some questions to help the teacher summarize their impressions is what was interesting in the data? What was surprising? What are next steps? And then have the teacher reflect on the observation process as a whole. Was the data you collected really meaningful? Were there other things that you, as the coach, could be looking forward to help learn from what happened in the lesson? Now, you might be wondering, is there a link for all this? Of course there's a link for all this. If you click right here, you'll see that we have a list of sentence frames that are organized by the different parts of the protocol. So it's a good idea to kind of go through these sentence frames, have a few prepared already in your collaboration log as you go through that coaching conversation. Now, some recommendations for providing feedback. Be timely and relevant. Assess the teacher's readiness to engage. And always try to remember, keep the conversation focused on the SMART goal. You're not going to fix everything you see, so keep the conversation in the world of the SMART goal. Use objective data to have that conversation, data that is specific, not general. Some of the students were working. No, 7 of the 10 students that I could observe were working. Provide a description, not an evaluation. Your notes should not be judgy. They should be simply describing what happened. Note the impact of teacher moves on different student behaviors, and help the teacher identify student behaviors that might be changeable. Seek entry points that are going to help the teacher self-reflect on how the lesson went and where to go from moving forward. and use that conversation to promote professional responsibility. If 7 of the 10 students were engaged in the conversation, what about those other 3? What can we do to get those 3 more involved? Ultimately,